Miller, Tarik LaCour from Hook'emHeadlines.com, the Hook'em Horn Show. We're coming back at y'all today with our preview for the Texas Tech game. We got senior night coming up on Black Friday. Texas coming in 10-1, 7-1 in Big 12 play after beating Iowa State last weekend in Ames, big 26-16 win. Texas showing some great perseverance on the road to come out with that big victory, move one step closer to getting a spot in the Big 12 championship game. Tech comes in 6-5, 5-3 in Big 12 play, but they found some success in the win column here lately. They've won 3 straight games, all of them very, very close. They got a nice little token of luck last weekend with UCF not being able to knock through that last minute extra point attempt. They won 24-23 in that game. I don't think Texas has any need for bulletin board material or reasons to hype up this game. It's the last Big 12 game at DKR, last Big 12 regular season game for Texas before moving to the SEC in 2024. You got Brett Yormark in attendance. I guess this will be the second straight game he's been there for a Texas game because he was at Iowa State last weekend, which caused some stirs in the first half because the reffing was just bad. And then, you got Brett Yormark telling the Red Raider Booster Club or something like that, a Red Raider luncheon. He was the keynote speaker a couple of months ago, and is telling them that they better take care of business in Austin when he's going to be at the game on Black Friday. That definitely added some fuel to the fire here. And yet, Tech, I will say this: I think Tech is still a decent team. I thought at the beginning of the season that they would be one of the teams that could push for a spot in Big 12 title game, and I guess record-wise, they're still one of the.
They wouldn't.
This game, because it's Tech and because it's Texas with something on the line in a regular season finale, I feel like just because of how things have gone for Texas the last few years, you can always get those jitters. But for me, I've got confidence in Texas heading into this game. I've actually had a lot of confidence in Texas here in the last few weeks. I know you did last week with your score prediction for the Iowa State game.
And the crazy thing is, if we had scored on that fumble that we fumbled on and scored on that punt return, I would have been right, basically. So it wasn't crazy. It was there. Yeah. I was just not impressed with Iowa State. Once they find out they can't run the ball, the game is over. And it pretty much was. The only reason they stayed around that game was because Texas kept messing up on their own. But once Texas found the groove, the game was over.
Texas being able to come out of that game with a 10-point win without Jonathan Brooks, CJ Baxter still being able to run for dang near 120 yards in his first career start, and I guess technically he started one game, but really his first full career start. And so I think that for Texas, if you can take care of business against Iowa State on the road, you had a motivating factor in that game. Coming into this game, you've got more motivating factors, I think. And, you're back at home. Hopefully you're a little bit healthier because there were some players dinged up. The first thing I would mention is on the injury front, I think Texas is going to have pretty much everyone back. Worthy sounds like he's been limited in practice this week, if not held out, because he suffered a lower body injury last week against Iowa State that ended up knocking him out in the fourth quarter. He was street clothes on the sidelines. DJ Campbell, I believe he will be back. If not, I'm fine with Cole Hudson playing. He was the second highest graded pass blocker last weekend. I thought he played really well, didn't allow any QB pressures. He's got plenty of starting experience under his belt. And then you got JT Sanders, but he was still able to play after, coming up hobbled with an ankle injury. So I think he'll be good to go. Jalen Catalon probably out. By my understanding, he re-aggravated a shoulder injury, so it wasn't even the same injury he suffered against OU, which was a leg injury. He only played 6 snaps before he was out of the game. And then I think I'm still missing. Oh, Derek Williams suffered a kind of a stinger, but he was still able to play the second half, which was much needed because we, at this point, are pretty much down to a 3-man rotation because Keaton Crawford didn't really play at all in the second half. Pretty much down to Jaron Thompson, Derek Williams, and Michael Taff. So, knowing all that, I think Texas at this point of the season, you still got to feel pretty good about where they're at health wise. Quinn Ewers getting healthier. Texas had a pretty well. I guess it's been a while since their bye week, so this is about as much as you could hope for health wise. I'll start here for why I think Texas can dominate Tech in this game. I'm kind of getting into a deep point here early, a little bit more analytical, but got the article coming up on the site here either tonight or early tomorrow. Happy Thanksgiving to everyone, by the way. But my first point here is I don't think that Texas Tech necessarily has. I don't think that they have the connections necessary, or that they've shown the ability, I think is a better way to put it, that they've shown the ability in the passing game to exploit some of the weaknesses that Texas has, that they've had in pass coverage this season. Namely being able to stretch the field consistently and kind of hitting some of those underneath or inside breaking routes, because Texas had issues with handing off assignments inside. I've noticed that communication aspect has been lacking between the linebackers and the safeties this season. I think at this point, everyone's kind of noticed that. Tech, they have some weapons in the receiving core. Jaron Bradley, I think, is a good receiver. He's just been inconsistent this season. 53% reception percentage. He's 68 targets, has only brought in 36 of them. 12th most targeted receiver in the Big 12, but he has the lowest reception percentage of the most targeted guys. And then they got two guys in the slot, Xavier White and Miles Price, that are, they're slippery. They're good. Both have over 200. I believe they both have over 250 yards per catch this season. But, Tech, it's pretty simple for them. They like to get those guys in the short passing game, screens occasionally, some bubble screens out of the slot, things like that, where they don't really work them in a ton in the intermediate and deep passing game. So, revolving door at quarterback. Tech's had some quarterback injury issues. Tyler Shuck, he had a season-ending injury. He's already in the transfer portal. Baron Morton's been banged up a little himself, but he's been playing pretty well the last few weeks. But just there's been timing and accuracy issues on some of the more complicated developing route concepts for them. They hit under 50%, well under 50% of their intermediate and deep passing attempts in Big 12 play this season. Not being able to connect with anyone on the outside, it's really taken away a huge aspect of their air raid offense. And they really haven't had a lot of plays under their belt to be able to get in rhythm because they've had such a reliance on Taj Brooks, their standout 1,000-yard rusher this season. What are your thoughts kind of on that? Just the Texas Tech passing game versus the Texas pass defense?
Well, Texas will stop the run and force them to pass, and that's going to kind of be their undoing. I don't think Texas Tech doesn't have that receiver that scares me this year. Last year, I think Tech was able to really capitalize on Texas not being as consistent on offense, and a big part of that was Tech towards the second half they decided to stop the run, and we didn't have the passing game we have now. JT Sanders wasn't as consistent. Didn't have Adonai Mitchell, Jordan Whittington, massively underutilized. He's in recent weeks becoming more utilized. Happy to see him get his first touchdown of the season, which he ironically got his first touchdown of the season last year against Iowa State. So there's that. So I think that this is a game that Texas should be able to control. They're the much larger team, they're the more physical team, and they also have the better pass rush. So that's exciting. As long as they can kind of work on the middle stuff in the middle of the field and keep those to a minimum, which I thought they did pretty well, especially in the second half against Iowa State, I think they'll be more than fine. They know what's at stake. They know that they lost to this team last year. That loss kept them out of the Big 12 title game. If they had won if they had either beaten TCU or beaten Tech or not lost to Oklahoma State, they would have been in the title game last year. So let's not make that two in a row. So yeah, I'm confident about that, and I think the seniors will want to put on a show one last time. So there's that.
Yeah, agreed. And I mean, I say this, it seems like every time I mention a stat like this, these situational split stats for a team like Tech that's been preparing for Texas, preparing for this game for a long time, they're going to find a way to exploit that still. But, Texas should know this. They're going to try to still test you over the middle because they do have two good slot receivers. You just have to be ready for it. If
I
will
think
say that
I think Maurice. I think that they having Maurice Blackwell out there has helped a lot.
it has, yeah, and I think having Watts back consistently healthy has helped a little bit in that regard, just because you don't have to worry about shading the boundary as much as you did while he was out for that stretch in the middle of Big 12 play for the hamstring injury. Um, but this serves as a good transition point for me to my next point here, and that's you mentioned some of the stuff that was like Texas's undoing on defense in the second half against Tech last year. Um, Donovan Smith's ability, like his dual threat ability, especially in those short yard situations, those short yardage packets where Tech was just getting first down after first down on money downs and kept Texas on the field for what was it, like 100 plays on defense. I don't think that, Tech does have a dual threat quarterback that can be elusive in the open field, but given some of the injury issues that Baron Morton has had and the fact that they don't really have another good quarterback available, I don't think they're going to try to run Baron Morton very much. They have not tried to do that a lot this season. So I don't think you had that dual threat element to worry about in this game. Do you think I'm mistaken on that part?
I don't. I think you're right on. I also don't think Baron Morton is the type of runner that will give Texas as much grief. They tend to have more grief with the guys who are really stronger runners, like Jalen Milrow and Donovan Smith, because they're bigger guys that are hard to bring down. Or Baron Morton is fast, but he's kind of a twig. Few
Yeah.
shots from Anthony Hill or Jalen Ford, and Taj Brooks will be their quarterback and running back. So, I mean,
Yeah.
I expect them to try it a little bit, but I'm sure that. But I don't worry about it too much. I think Texas has ways to defend it this year that they didn't last year. I think Anthony Hill alone can shut down the QB run, so not too worried about it.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, because I don't know how much more elusive Morton is at this point than Rocco Becht, even with his injury. So, my main concern from Morton would be him throwing on the run. I think that he has some talent. He can throw, off his back foot from a few different arm angles.
That worries me more. Yeah.
Yeah, kind of like Will Howard. You can't let him get outside of the pocket and make things happen too much when the play breaks down. So that would be my bigger concern. But anyway, my next point here of why I think Texas can dominate Tech is that, speaking to kind of the point we've been hinting at already, it's that I think, Texas is going to load the box, like you said earlier in the video, really try to make Tech's offense one dimensional. Like if if you can make Tech put the game on Baron Morton's arm, I think that this game could get pretty ugly as long as Texas keeps its foot on the gas in the second half.
I don't. Yeah, I totally agree with that. They're gonna. Their first goal is, PK always talks about take away their best thing first, and their best thing is Taj Brooks, and they're very good at stopping running backs. So I think that will be the first thing that they stop. Having 9 yards on the ground last week, I don't see any reason why Texas can't do the same thing this week. So, yeah.
Agreed. Texas hasn't allowed a team to rush for over 100 yards since the OU game. Even if Tech does get to the 100-yard mark this week, they would probably have to do so on 35 carries at least. I mean, Brooks has received, I think it's over 30 carries in each of the last 3 games during Tech's winning streak. He's carried for over 130 yards in each game as well. So, I just don't think that they've really seen it. Obviously, they haven't seen a defensive line like ours, and unfortunately for Tech, fortunately for us, they have some spots along the offensive line that just haven't been holding up very well in run blocking this season. It's just, Taj Brooks leads the nation in missed tackles forced and leads the Big 12 in broken tackles and forced in Big 12 play. So he's kind of bailed them out a ton. But
yeah, I don't think Hill and Ford are missing that many tackles.
No, and Benda was fantastic last week.
That hit that Ford had on a third down, where
yeah,
I was like, that's a grown man right there.
Yeah. Agreed. So I don't need to elaborate too much on that one. I think if you can successfully make Tech one-dimensional, then you've accomplished your game plan for the most part on defense. My next point here, and this is kind of one of the more interesting ones for me. I'm looking, more at the matchup between Texas's offense and Tech's defense. I just don't think that Tech is very good at generating havoc plays up front. They do have a pretty good defensive front that is good at stopping opponents' ground games. They haven't allowed an opponent, I think, to rush for even over 4 yards per carry in the last 2 or 3 weeks. And they rank third in the Big 12 in yards per carry against zone ground attempts. So Texas probably going to have some issues running the ball this week, depending on how Tech prepares for this game. They're good with light boxes. Jalen Hutchings, he's a good defensive tackle. Some of their edge guys, Tony Bradford, Krishawn Merriweather at linebacker. These guys are pretty good at stopping the run. But I do think that that's going to open up opportunities for Texas elsewhere, where Tech, for some reason, just cannot rush the passer this year. I thought getting Josiah Pierre back and Tony Bradford and Jalen Hutchings along the defensive line, that they would be able to generate a pass rush. But they're, I think, fourth from the bottom in pressure rate in the Big 12 this year. And I don't think they have a guy that has over 5 sacks. So
that's good.
Jalen Hutchings has been limited lately, and he is at least banged up heading into this one. I don't think that Tech's going to be able to generate enough havoc. Kind of like Iowa State was good at wreaking havoc on you. Even TCU has some guys that are able to do that. I don't know if Tech necessarily has those guys up front. So, you're going to give Quinn Ewers probably some time to sit back there and pick apart the defense. Tech also, this is another part of their defense. It's kind of a different point that I'm trying to get at here, but they've been really good at at not giving up explosive plays. They ranked 26th in the FBS. They've given up under 40 plays this year, over 20 yards. So they're good in that respect, but the trade-off there is they've played a little softer to keep plays in front of them and to play it safe. So they've given up a lot of the underneath stuff. So, Texas, I think if you got good wide receiver blocking, like good outside blocking in this game, you can get the ball out to guys like Worthy, to Jordan Whittington, to Adonai Mitchell. You're also facing a 3-3-5 defense, so you can attack the seams with JT Sanders. I think this is a game you got to give Sanders the ball more. All around, Sanders is going to be a big part of this game. I feel like at this point he really needs to boost his draft stock. Some of the ankle injury, I think, has kind of cost him a little bit this year. Might have cost him a round or two. But you can really lift up that draft stock if he has a good finale, a good Big 12 title game, get him some rest before whatever it is into your Six Bowl or the playoff. So, I mentioned a lot here. What I'm trying to say is that, Tech doesn't generate much havoc. I think Quinn Ewers is going to have some time to sit back there, pick apart this Tech defense, and you got some different ways that you can get some guys open, make some things happen after the catch.
Yeah, I hope to see a lot of throws out of the backfield to Jaden Blue and CJ Baxter. I thought those were opened up a lot of things later.
You think getting Baxter more involved in the receiving game?
I think so. Although I think Baxter's better probably actually lining up as a receiver and kind of moving around versus coming out of the backfield. I don't know that his burst was all the way there sometimes, because there were a few plays where it's like, if you're just a step faster, you missed that tackle, but instead it got blown up. So yeah, but I would like to see more formations. Get Jordan Whittington in the backfield too, and use him as a blocker or throw him the ball. I think that those are all really good things. When Jordan Whittington has the ball, he does a lot of really creative things.
Yeah, I just don't think that there's a lot of times where Sark likes to get him the ball because he's the best blocker that we have.
Yeah,
outside and downfield. I got to say this before we move on. I need to see better blocking from Adonai Mitchell and JT Sanders in some of these big games. I don't know what's happened to JT Sanders pass blocking this year, but he let another sack go against Iowa State.
Yeah, and I thought Gunnar Helm played really well.
No, for sure. Yeah, 2 catches, 40 yards in that game-winning touchdown against Iowa State.
He could just be standing by himself.
Yeah. And he's always reliable. So, I mean, get him the ball in those situations. He's had some big touchdowns this year.
He's not the athlete that Jatavian Sanders is, but Gunnar Helm is a more complete tight end.
Yeah, he's a better blocker.
Because he's a much better blocker.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, here's my last point on why Texas can dominate Tech. I mentioned at the beginning of the video, mentioned it a ton. I just think that Texas has no shortage of bulletin board material to motivate them in this game. I think that the comments that Jared Hufford had last week before the Iowa State game played a big role in how dominant Texas was along the defensive front. I think Texas would have been dominant either way, but I think getting that extra push, to allow only 9 rushing yards against Iowa State, the least they've had in a game since 2010, 0.4 yards per carry. That's insane against like a bowl eligible team. So, I mean, I think that there's more bulletin board material heading into this game than there was last week.
Yep. Just play everything runs through Lubbock, and that I told you they were going to break at halftime. That's what if you're up big, play that at halftime. Like, don't break, keep the foot on the throttle, and I think we should be at 11-1 when Smokey fires the cannon when it goes 0-0.
Yep, agreed. I'll kind of speed run this part. My potential concerns for this game. I haven't done the article on this yet. I'm about to have the reasons why Texas can dominate Tech posted. So there's that. But my concerns for this one, I've kind of talked about them already too. Tech's ability to stop the run. I think Texas will have some issues getting the ground game going in this one, which is key because, you're facing a 3-3-5 defense, and being able to run the ball up the middle is one of the ways you can exploit that defense. Taj Brooks, if he is able to get something going, if Tech is able to run the ball early, that could spell trouble for us, because that means that Tech is going to be able to open up the offense a little bit more and possess the ball, which is what got us in trouble partly in the second half last year. My other concern is, this is more of like, you can't really count on Tech beating themselves as much, I don't think, as they were in the middle of the season. As they have lately. They've taken really good care of the ball during the winning streak. This winning streak for them has really amounted to 2 things, and that's taking better care of the football and running the ball successfully with Taj Brooks. They're averaging 0.67 turnovers per game they've had 2 turnovers in the last 3 games, where they had, I think it was 11 in the previous 3 games. 11 combined. And so, their recipe for success has been simple: manage the clock well, manage turnovers, get Taj Brooks the football. Texas, that's a key to this game, is being able to draw some turnovers, I think. Baron Morton's only thrown 4 interceptions this year, but if you can get them off schedule early, that's just another way to make them one-dimensional. It's just another way to get an early lead here. So that would be my only other concern I would mention. I don't know if you have anything else that you would talk about here.
Nope, I think you covered it pretty well.
Okay. I think it's prediction time. I don't have one from Shane yet. I'm going to get that tonight or tomorrow. I'll let you go first because I haven't done mine yet.
Texas 38, Tech 17.
Okay. So Texas right now,
if you can barely score 23 points on UCF and all these other schools, I'm not too worried.
Yeah, I mean, Texas 26 points isn't that the lowest amount of?
I still don't know how they beat Kansas. Just made some dumb plays down the stretch, because I still don't know how they won that game. But yeah.
Yeah, Kansas, but they were down to their 3rd quarterback at that point. I do think Cole Ballard's pretty good for a 3rd quarterback, but anyway. Yeah, I'll go. Last week I said 34-20 for us winning. I think we're going to be around the same mark. I'll go 31-21. I think it might be a little bit closer if Tech can get in the end zone a few times. I still think they're going to find a way to possess the ball against us, but I think that we'll be able to get out with another gritty win, lock up that spot in the Big 12 title game. Okay, so before we get going here, Shane and I yesterday, I'll have this video coming, actually both these videos coming tomorrow. Um, Texas, I think at the very least, they're in it for for a New Year's Six bowl game, worst case scenario. But if Texas wins out, goes to the Big 12 championship game, plays Oklahoma State, whoever that is next weekend, likely Oklahoma State. I think that there's a path to the playoff here. For the playoff, who would you want to face if we were in it? Who do you think that Texas would have the best chance of beating among the contenders right now? You think Michigan?
Michigan.
Oh, okay. All right. I said Washington.
Ohio State and Washington will give the secondary the blues with the receivers they have. Michigan, not so much.
Okay. Fair enough. And then
I think Texas can Texas can hold its own with anyone that's ahead of them.
I think Georgia would give us fits too, but
yeah. The PK's game plan would be like, okay, we're going to stop Brock Bowers and then make him go to someone else.
Lad McConkey.
Exactly.
Yeah. And then if we don't,
I'll take that. Put Jade Barron on him.
Gotcha. Okay. If we don't make it to the playoff, it looks like the most common projection was the Cotton Bowl. Who would you want to face?
So that's back to back in Jerry World, huh?
It'd be an at-large, so I said Texas Ohio State would be what I would want to see. I think that would be a lot of fun for the Cotton Bowl.
We wouldn't be playing Marvin Harrison Jr., that's for sure.
Right.
Probably not Emeka Mbuka, and probably Trevon Henderson's will sit, and so it'll be interesting. I wouldn't hate it. I think just because of the brand, I wouldn't mind playing Florida State.
Even without Jordan Travis?
Yeah.
Okay. That's fair. All right. Well,
sadly, to be honest with you, if Texas doesn't make the playoff, I don't really care about the bowl game. It's like I'm more interested in is Quinn Ewers coming back? Let's find that out. The bowl game is just an exhibition game.
I still would care a lot about that.
I mean, don't only be fun, but
yeah, it devalues it a little bit with the 12
team
playoff.
The bowl games have been better than the playoff games, I've noticed.
Yeah, for sure. For a lot of them, yeah.
So it would be good to, I guess, stay in Dallas back to back because you get a lot of fan turnout.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it'd be a lot better than us getting I saw one projection that was the Fiesta Bowl against the Group of 5 at large bid, and that would be a letdown. If we ended up playing someone like a Tulane or a Fresno State or someone like that.
If we play Tulane, we can't lose to them after what happened in Lincoln Riley.
Nope. Yeah, for sure. But it's just if we win, if we win the Big 12 and then, that's what Texas gets in the postseason, that would just be a major letdown. You would just want something to cap it better.
Chance to go 13-1. So it's a big thing for Sark. I think it would definitely give us some momentum heading into recruiting for next year and just in the offseason in general. So
yeah. Okay, last parting shot here. Who do you think Texas A&M hires as their head coach? Apparently they got an announcement coming next week.
I think the scariest announcement would be DeBoer or Lanning, but I don't think it's going to be either of them, so I'm not particularly worried. Traylor, it seems like he's the backup. It's looking like Elko's not going to go, so I'm almost thinking it's going to be Traylor because they're just running out of people. I think the best hire that they could make that they won't make would be Mike Gundy. But
I could have a whole thing on that, but yeah.
I think Mike Gundy would be a great hire for them. I'm going to guess it's going to be Traylor.
Okay.
But maybe they'll do a surprise and, money whip a guy. Again, I think it would be a mistake to do Dabo Swinney, but
he just hasn't adjusted to the modern game well. And that's even compared to a guy like Mike Gundy. I think Traylor would be a really good hire for them, especially for recruiting, given all his connections around the state of Texas and just what he's done with the UTSA program. But I think that Jed Fish, I think that rumor's got some legs to it. He's done good things at Arizona this year. I mean, he's still like basically his head coaching record is almost the same that Charlie Strong's was when he left Texas. And so I think if you're A&M, you're rolling the dice there. I don't know honestly how much of an upgrade that is over Jimbo, but yeah, I'm going Jed Fish right now. I don't think that's the best hire for them, but I think that's probably who it's going to be.
If it's Jed Fish, I'll sleep. I'm not worried about who they hire at this point because they're not going to hire the guys that would make me terrified.
Yeah,
Manning, I'd be terrified. DeBoer, I'd be terrified because he'd have Weigman and all those receivers. They get Traylor. I think that Traylor's going to nuke that place, and then Texas will be able to raid that roster for things they need. I think Texas really needs. I think it would be great for Texas to find a way to get Evan Stewart and Moose Muhammad to replace Worthy and Adonai Mitchell. So we'll see.
Yeah, for sure. Hopefully Ty Anthony Smith too.
I think that's going to happen.
I do too. Even though he canceled the official visit this weekend, it sounds like that's probably still going to happen later.
That wasn't his fault. That's because of the game.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, I'm excited for this one. I'll be at the big. Okay, nice. I'll be at the Big 12 championship game next weekend.
Hopefully Texas is too.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
I still can't believe we're going into the last week and no one is clinched.
It's been a weird year. It's been a very weird year, but and the Big 12 can't seem to figure out their tiebreakers, but that's hopefully not going to impact us. So anyway, for Andrew Miller, Tarik LaCour, Look'emHeadlines.com, Look 'em Horn Show, that's pretty much it. Welcome.